Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm going to do a deep dive on all things masculinity right now, how to step into greater masculinity, how to find your authentic masculinity. I got John, who's one of my business partners here, who's going to be asking me questions about this topic, and then I'm going to be giving the responses to you guys. So I'll kick it over to you, John. What do you want to start off with?
So the question really is, what is the masculine essence and how does one cultivate it?
The masculine essence is your deepest and truest self. You becoming that man. A lot of people think masculinity today is having a sports car and smoking a cigar. That's not masculinity. If that's relevant to you and that feels good to you, that can be masculine. But for a lot of guys, right, it's kind of the Andrew Tate sheep. It's like, oh, Andrew Tate does this, so I'm gonna do this, which is actually the opposite of masculinity. Masculinity is not a set behaviors. Masculinity is more about you being authentically you and not caring what anyone else thinks. But the hard part for most men when it comes to being authentically them is we've been so programmed from the age of 5, 3, 2, our whole life to be a certain way that we don't even know what is authentically ourselves. In masculinity, everything starts in personal growth when we actually start to connect deeper to ourselves. When we connect deeper to ourselves, then we can start to understand what it means to live authentically masculine. There's certain traits though that are more masculine. Like at the core of being a masculine man is responsibility. It's taking care of yourself and taking care of those around you. Being a protector is masculine. You see someone being hurt, as a good masculine man, you are protecting that person. Going after what you want authentically and truthfully, that's deeply masculine because it's courageous. There's a reason why movies like Braveheart, Gladiator, all of these deeply core masculine movies stand out and speak to us as men. There's something we feel when we watch it. We're motivated at some level, and because that's core masculinity, that's courage. Courage for you might be, I'm gonna go play my guitar on the street corner. That's masculine because that is courageous for you. Where courage for me might be, I'm gonna go get in an MMA fight. But both of them are deeply masculine. It just depends on what is authentic for ourselves.
And I feel like so many people have been followers for most of their life.
Yep.
That knowing how to even figure out what they want is really hard.
Yep.
So can you give some advice on how to step away from the follower mentality and really sink into figuring out what we want ourselves?
Join my program. No, but really deeply at the core, for people to get out of the habit of being a follower comes back to connection with self. The best way to develop connection with self is authentically speaking your truth. See, for most of us, when we're interacting with someone, it's like, what should I say in this moment? How should I respond to get the result I want? A lot of people love to read persuasion books and negotiation books and all of this. When I really look at that, the most persuasive and negotiative you can be is just actually authentically speaking your truth. So I'll give you an example. One of the biggest clients I ever got from my marketing agency, I got on the call with him and I said, hey, this call today, I'm going to try and tell you why you should invest $25,000 a month with me. Right from the start. And the guy's like, whoa, that's a lot. And I'm going to show you why it's actually worth it towards your business. When you start off from that level of clear, direct, authentic communication, that starts to bring out your authentic self. Authenticity comes from you being willing to speak your truth, to say what is deeply on your mind and what you feel. And it's the most courageous thing you can do as a man is to actually speak your truth in every moment of your life. And the only way you know what your truth is by feeling yourself. You can feel it in your belly when you're supposed to say something. You can feel it, the tension of like, I don't agree with that. Am I gonna say something or am I gonna leave it alone? That's the moment to be courageous. So connection with self starts with that, speaking your truth. The next thing, it starts with having time to yourself. Most people are always busy making activities, friends, groups, things, where they never have time by themselves. And if they don't have time by themselves, they're not going to understand who the fuck they are at the core. They have to have that space. Something that we do in the program is one of the weekends is we actually have guys go to a cabin alone for 2 to 3 days. No technology, no stimulation, nothing. And that process of doing that is the first time for a lot of men where they really meet themselves. They're not taking in information. They're not taking in stimulation. They're just sitting there connected with themselves. On a daily basis, 2 other things that really help: meditation, deep or longer meditations, and journaling. Both of those, you'll start to understand who you are deeply when you do those things.
I think a lot of men are really resonating with what you're saying about speaking your truth, and yet there's resistance because of fear of conflict.
Yes.
Or fear of ruffling feathers.
Yes.
Can you speak more on how a man can get over the resistance of that? Because ultimately that's what's causing them to not listen to their belly and not say what they really want to say.
The softer we are on ourselves, the softer we are with others. I learned this in my marketing agency when I was being soft on my employees. They were just like taking advantage, things weren't going well. And it was ultimately because I was being soft on myself. And then when I started being hard on myself, disciplined, doing my things, then it made it easier for me to be in conflict with other people. So there's an element of that, holding yourself to a higher standard. And when you hold yourself to a higher standard, you develop more respect for yourself. And the more respect you have for yourself, the more easy it is to be in conflict. Also, outside of that, conflict or ruffling feathers is a muscle. You have to practice it. It's always going to feel a bit of tension, but as you do it more and more, the tension starts to subside, and then you can step into power by doing it without having so much fear. That's why it's so important as a man to go back to courage. If you look at all the greatest people of the world, all the greatest people who conquered and took over big parts of the world, whether it's high-level businessmen, whether it's actual conquerors who I think are the best to learn from, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, these type of people, they all talk about courage, overcoming fear, being encouraged, because ultimately they know that in order to conquer the world, you have to conquer yourself. And in order to conquer yourself, you have to conquer courage. That's the only way to really do it.
A lot of people, they are waiting for courage before they can act. But in reality, action typically takes place before courage. Can you give some more tips to everybody on how to cultivate more courage in your life?
Yes. It's becoming obsessed with using the compass of fear. What am I scared of in my life? What am I scared to do right now? That's where I go. That's the compass. Let me go do that. The more we can operate from that place of courage and step into fear and use that as the compass, the more we can live courageously. But it's like anything, it's a muscle. We have to do it. We have to practice it. One of the habits that I have, one of the habits that everyone in the community that works with us has, is that they have to do a daily act of courage. And the reason why is because the more courageous they become, the more they're going to become themselves, the more they're going to push down fear. How do I find acts of courage and do them on a daily basis to strengthen that muscle of doing it?
I know one of the issues that some of the guys have is trying to figure out what their daily act of courage could be. And it seems like reflecting on what they are in fear of the most, it seems to be a good place to start with.
Yeah, a great start there. When I have like a daily act of courage and I don't know what to do, it's almost always a conversation I need to have. More direct, more truthful, more, no, I don't agree with this, a boundary, whatever it might be. That tends to be the thing that creates the most courage or moments of courage for me in my life.
What are some other ways that men can really cultivate their masculinity?
One of the biggest things is the daily disciplines, to do those every day, regardless of how you feel. What will happen so much of the time is things come up. I talk to some of my married friends with kids and they get 3 hours of sleep, they get 2 hours of sleep, they get 4 hours of sleep, but they still have to show up. And that's part of being a man. We don't know. Tomorrow, another tribe can come over the mountain if we were living 1,000 years ago to kill us. And I can't say, oh, my leg hurts or I'm sick. You get out of bed because you got to do it. That cultivates masculinity. The other one, and this is one that's not talked about enough, is the courage to have your heart opened. Because a lot of guys who say like, get up no matter what, 4 a.m., do this stuff, it's the same guys who don't actually show up vulnerably. If you look at guys like David Goggins or Jocko Willink or some of these other really big influencers today, it's all about, doesn't matter how you feel, shut up, get the job done, which I agree with. But then the other side of that as a man in relationship, and this is the scariest thing to do. You see 6'3", 250-pound ripped Navy SEALs who are terrified to do this. And it is to actually show up vulnerably in your feelings with your partner or in your close relationships. Hey, that thing you did really hurt me. Hey, baby, I'm feeling insecure. I didn't like when you do this. It really hurt me. That courage to show up, no mask, open kimono, as we say in the program, vulnerable with another human being is probably the scariest thing that you can do. That is scarier than waking up at 4 a.m. That is scarier than almost anything a man can do. So that's the other part of courage, is not just the, I don't care what anyone says, get the job done, build the muscle type guy. It's also the other guy who's like, I'm wrecked. I'm insecure, I'm needy, I'm all these things, and being able to show that to your partner creates a deeper bond and a deeper love and a deeper respect, and it's probably the single most courageous action that a man can take.
So it seems like speaking your truth isn't necessarily just talking about what you don't agree with, but also speaking your truth and what's going on in your heart.
Completely, because if we look at the stereotype, I always think of a guy from high school or whatever who's big and ripped, and then people start making fun of him. He's like, I don't care. You see he cares. You see he's destroyed by it, but he doesn't have the power, the strength to say, hey man, I don't like when you say that. It really hurts my feelings. That's power, because it's authentic. It's true. It's not just what I don't agree with, but it's actually the vulnerability to show up and say, hey, I'm not cool with this. Hey, I don't feel good about this. Hey, I don't like this. hey, I do like this. Hey, I wish you would do this more. And oftentimes in romantic relationships, this is where a lot of guys are steered wrong because women can feel. You can't pretend you're not hurt by it. Come home from work and your girl asks you how your day was and it's like, it was fine. She knows. So either you can be truthful and vulnerable, which is scary, or you can lie and be weak.
I think a lot of men are afraid that if they were to open up and talk about what it is that they're afraid of, or if they were to be in need of more, like wanting a little bit more attention or this and that, they would be feel seen as needy.
Yes.
What would be the way to help them reframe this? Because clearly you're talking about this in such an important way and it's only helped develop their relationship deeper and further.
Yes.
Instead of putting them in a bad light.
And almost every man has this fear because almost every man's been hurt from doing this. Being too needy, leaning too much on a woman, and then being broken up with, whether it's younger or whatever. This is a pretty common thing that happens to men. This is the importance of being a powerful man. Because if you're always showing up needy like that, which I've done in a relationship before and destroyed my relationship, it's too much. But if you're an actual strong man who's disciplined and sticks to the thing he says he's going to do and puts in the work and is going after it in life, my girlfriend loves when I show up like that. It's a moment for her to feel important and special because it is not the norm. It is not every day. It is not every time we hang out. It is a process. I've developed myself into a type of man who can deal with conflict and difficult things. So when I'm actually bringing something to her, it's big. And it's rare. And she can sit there and she can help support me and love me and caress me and talk to me and bring me back up to my normal place. And this is the thing that a lot of guys in Red Pill or guys like Andrew Tate, they miss is your woman actually wants that vulnerability. She doesn't want you strong 1000% of the time. It doesn't create real, authentic connection. When a guy can actually be vulnerable in that way, and he can actually show up and say, hey, this hurt my feelings. This is how I feel. He can do that because she knows he is strong. But if he's not strong, if he doesn't stick to what he says, if he doesn't hold boundaries and limits with her, it probably will just create a lack of attraction for him. And something that me and my girlfriend joke about is she's super primally connected and super feminine. When I do show up like that, there is a polarity switch where she's not as sexually attracted to me because she's seeing a weaker, more vulnerable part of me. She's more connected to me, but she's not like, oh, I want to fuck him. It's not that energy. But then when I'm in another energy and I'm like, hey, you're not doing that. Here's the boundary. I'm not cool with that. Boom, 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 boom. Then she's like, oh my God. Ugh. I'm so attracted to you. You can't be needy and soft and expect this sexual polarity unless you have a masculine woman. But that allows her heart to open for you so you guys can go deeper in a relationship.
So then how does a man know when to show up, in which way, to be able to have the right balance so that they're not always being too 100% super strong, but also not, in another sense, too weak?
It's kind of a feel thing, and it's the reason why we have the community we have. It's building strong men. And if you are strong men in community with other strong men and you're doing hard things, you can show up like that when you need to show up like that. But when you're not, it's more the victim mentality, like, oh, work's hard, my clients are hard, boss is hard, everything's hard. When you come from that energy, that's where she's gonna be like, But when you're putting in the work daily, hey, maybe you have a week where every day you're going through something hard and you're in that energy and she gets to help raise you up and support you and serve her purpose of helping support the king. It comes down to feel, and ultimately you can do it as much as you want as long as you're doing hard shit. Do hard shit, push yourself, put in the work. And you can do it as much as you want.
We are now in a society where the environment is soft.
Yes.
And so it allows men to be able to sit into softness as well.
Yep.
What would you encourage men to do when the environment and everything around them causes them to be soft and they need to learn how to be hard?
It is about being in community where men are going to push you to be more hard. Last night, I couldn't fall asleep until 1:30 in the morning. I had to get up at 5:30. I'm on 4 hours of sleep. Not ideal, not what I want to be on, but I got to do it. And I just knew all the things I had to do today. If I slept longer, I wouldn't get my things done. I'm accountable to a group of men every day. I'm accountable to you. I'm accountable even to my girlfriend. I have all these people I'm accountable to. I'm accountable to my clients I have to meet with today. I'm accountable to a podcast I have to do. So it's developing a community or being around a community. It doesn't have to necessarily be ours. Create a community around you where guys are really holding you to doing the disciplines every day. There's certain things that make us feel better as human beings. Working out, meditating, getting time in nature, being courageous in our actions, speaking our truth. You do those 5 things, you are going to enjoy your life more. You're going to feel better about yourself as a man. You're going to become hardened, quote unquote, as a man. You're going to become tougher as a man. It's having community around you that's going to hold you accountable. And then it's making promises to yourself. Hey, I'm going to do this every single day, no matter what. And then live that no matter what, because you're going to be tested. I was tested this morning. I didn't want to get up at 5:30. I was tired, but I said I'm going to be doing it. So I'm getting up at this time.
So a lot of women these days talk about how they don't really need a super masculine man. How important is masculinity when it comes to attraction for women?
There's always a difference between what women say and what women respond to. In my journey of doing cold approach pickup for several years, I really got a deep understanding of what women actually respond to. Women respond to a man who carries those traits, those deep traits of masculinity. He's a leader, he holds boundaries, he speaks his truth, he's clear on what he wants. Women respond to that. Even if modern day women today say, oh, I don't want this guy, I don't want that guy, they respond to that guy. The way I was before I was more in my power with women, I had women who disrespected me, who still talked to exes, and just like all this behavior. And now who I am today, the women I meet, they're open to sleeping with other women with me because they feel so safe around me. It is such a different experience when you are in your masculinity versus when you aren't as a man. The way everyone respects you when you go places, the way women treat you, everything is different. And it's not about pretending to be masculine. It's about really being that guy. And the way you are that guy, you know me, my natural state, how I've been programmed, is not a hyper masculine dude. I'm very empathetic, I'm very sensitive, I'm very caring, I'm very loving. I have all these traits that are actually pretty deeply feminine. But when I connected deeper to my primal self and I'm true to myself, it completely changed the amount of masculinity that other people perceived me showing up in the world with. We can even show older videos of me speaking.
It is 6:30 on Monday, Eastern Standard Time, and we're gonna start the timer now and see how long it takes her to get her first job this week.
My voice is different, my charisma, my energy is different, and that's because I was less connected with the deeper primal energy in me, which is my masculinity.
Can you say more about the primal energy? Because I think that's something that's quite foreign to a lot of men.
It is the best feeling in the world when you actually meet your inner animal. And this happened for me after I sold my business. I was living in Brazil. I had a lot of space, I had a lot of time. I was doing a lot of inner work, a lot of shadow work. I got connected to my belly. And our belly is where we hold our deeper primal energy. It's where we hold our power. It's like a reservoir of deep energy. When I was connected to my belly, I kept finding I had this wolf in me, this like ferocious energy that was ready to go get what I wanted in life. And what I've seen more and more through my coaching is every man has this deeper primal energy within him. And as a man connects to it, it completely changes his testosterone levels. It completely changes how he shows up with women. It completely changes how he shows up in the bedroom. Also changes how he shows up in the gym. He's connected to something different, a different source within him, a different energy. When I did my testosterone test at 27, I was doing pretty much the same workouts that I'm doing at 32. But yet at 27, my testosterone was 440, and at 32, it was 985. That didn't happen because of supplement. That didn't happen because I now had this new workout routine. That happened because I got connected to my deeper primal energy. Most guys have no idea about this. I've gone into groups and guys on Facebook, 80,000 plus guys, and asked people, hey, has anyone experienced this? Does anyone know? I've only met a few other handful of men who know about this, and all of those men are men I deeply respect, deeply admire, and are super high performing. As we connect to our primal energy, it completely changes our life. And I'm not always connected to it. There's certain days where I feel it and it's like, I'm in that power. And there's days when I'm not and I'm having a hard day and all that stuff.
If the men who are watching this want to be more connected to their primal energy, what are some things that you recommend them do?
The biggest one is courage. As a man really steps into deep fear, he starts to develop and connect to his belly. For a lot of men who enter my program, there's difficult things we have them do, whether it's having them go to a store and get someone to buy something, or having them do a cold approach on a woman, even just going in a big public space and dancing like crazy for a minute. All of these unleash a different animal inside you. And these are kind of basic things, but it's just the start of, okay, I'm moving this programming off of me that I've lived with my whole life. This fear of what other people think, this thing that's kept most men small. It's the cage that most men are locked in and they don't know how to find the keys. Men know they have a lion, they just don't know how to let him out of the cage. And that's what it really is. Where are you being constricted? Where are you being held? Where are you being in fear? And as you let that lion out of the cage, boom, you start to find that primal energy. Some men find it in sex as well. When they really let go in sex, they find it.